Greetings to everybody who's here. And I also want to introduce my associate Karen, who's going to be monitoring chat and looking at raised hands and things like that so that we can make it a little bit more interactive. So any comments or anything you can put in the chat or questions, and I will get started. I'm not going to just PowerPoint you to death, but this helps me. So you have a lot of people use PI for just hiring, but I want to make sure you know what you've got to help your managers, because that really is kind of the best use of PI in according to Beth Friel. And so I wanted to introduce some things, and there are some Day 91 tools that we've developed over the past, 12 years that you also have access to, and I'll show you how to access those as well. But the reason I think that managers are so important is because they are the people who are most important for employee engagement, retention, and productivity. So most people, when they leave jobs, they leave managers, not companies. And the more you improve retention and performance, the lower your hiring costs will be because you don't have to hire as much. So that's sort of the whole premise behind all this. The first thing I wanted to go over is you are still doing hiring, and there are a couple reports that can help people understand the candidate and what they need to do to coach them and what the performance risks are. So most of you probably know about the candidate interview guide, and that's just going to show you some of the fits and gaps and questions to ask where they don't fit. How skilled are they at adapting? Because most people are not going to fit. So as a hiring manager or interviewer, recruiter, you want to ask some questions, and they're situational, about how people adapt and how skilled are they. Because you don't want to just say, oh, they don't fit the PI pattern, so we're not going to hire them. Most people do not fit. Then I have the fit gap analysis. And I'll show you where that is on the Day 91 website. So the fit gap analysis we developed to show, for instance, on this slide, there's 2 misfits on the A drive. Your job target might have a high A requirement, and the person is a low A. And the performance implications are, they may be less assertive, less authoritative. Conflict or unpopular decisions can be very stressful. So it might give you a clue on how you might manage that person or put them in a team with somebody else. As opposed to if the target has a low A and the person has a high A, the risks are they might appear too aggressive, they might have difficulty being collaborative and sort of a member of the team. They may try to kind of take over things and be independent outside of instructions. So that's how we use that. And I usually delete some rows so that only the rows where the gaps are the ones that you give to a hiring manager or for analysis for a person who doesn't fit. The third report is the coaching guide. And that's going to show the behavioral comparison between a person and a job. And the one in this example shows somebody who fits 3 of the 4 criteria, but is a big miss on the A. So it's going to focus the coaching questions on the A, but also sort of how can you improve where you already fit. So I'm going to jump to, I'm hoping to jump, here we go, to the PI platform. Can everybody see that, Karen?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So where you find these, and I'm going to look for somebody, this is my quick way of looking for people if I'm just trying to find somebody. So I might have this person. She's associated with a job. I can compare to job. I can look at the interview guide. So I can see some of the questions. Tell me about a time where you had to lead a team or project. That's on that A. And you had to initiate something new. That's on the A. So you can use some of these questions, some of them not, just to explore the areas where they don't fit to see how they adapt. And we've got the coaching guide here, which is another tool that we looked at. So all the reports are going to be on the left-hand side, and you will only get the interview guide and the coaching guide if the person's matched with a job. Any questions on any of that before I move on? Okay. And I'll show you when we go to the website, I'll show you where you can find the Fit Gap report as well. The next thing I wanted to go over is onboarding packages, both for the employee and for managers. So I recommend 3 reports for the employee. Now, this can either be when you hire somebody new and you're onboarding them, or you're implementing PI for a certain department or a certain manager, and the person might be new to role or just new to working with PI. So for the employee, I recommend including the behavioral report. Then they can kind of read through that, improve some self-awareness. The personal development chart, which is going to give them tips how to adapt their behavior. And the relationship guide. And the relationship guide should be between the employee and the manager. So the relationship guide is going to give you strengths. It's going to give you the cautions in the relationship, and it's going to give you tips to help communicate better so you're not kind of talking across each other. For the manager, I have a couple different things. I've got, again, the behavioral report, but then there's the management strategy guide. And this is a bunch of tips on how to manage that person, regardless of what job they're in. So it's going to tell you how to best communicate, how to assign work tasks, and mostly just how to treat them so that they perform at the top of their game. And most of this is just about communication. The third one is also the relationship guide so that the manager understands the strengths, cautions, and tips for managing that person. And then finally, the coaching guide, which is going to help that manager, because managers really need to be coaches. It's not top down anymore. It is, how do you develop somebody from where they are to where they need to be or where they want to be? So the coaching guide is really going to help them adapt those behaviors. And when you're coaching them, take them back to their personal development chart, because those are the tips that they're going to need to practice in order to adapt some behaviors. And I'm going to just quickly share where those are in PI. So we've got the behavioral report. I think most people know where that is. And it goes down within English, so you don't have to understand all the dots. The personal development chart is here. And it's going to designate where their drive is. And then self-coaching tips are those adaptation tips that they need. And it goes by drive, by the A, the B, and the C, and the D. The management strategy guide says how they interact in the workplace, how they take action, and what you need to do to support them, or what a manager needs to do to support them. And kind of the nice thing, if people take the time, is reflection. What have you done well? What can you do better? And what are you going to do in the next 90 days to adapt to working with that person? And then the coaching guide again is here, and the relationship guide is here. So once you're in there, if you select the manager, it's going to show you strengths and cautions. And if you click this for PI masters, you'll get each of their self patterns so that you can compare two people. And a lot of times when you're going through this, and you all may have experienced it, is when you get to these cautions, people just start cracking up. Any questions about the onboarding? And I'd love it if somebody could share, if you've been using these, how you've been using these and kind of what impact they have.
So Beth, we do have a question in the chat.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, to the right, you can create a report. Do all of these reports exist here or exit there? I'm not really sure what the writer, Aaron.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, so if you click on the right where it says create a report kit,
Oh, yeah.
so what we have been doing at ECI is we actually give the report prior to the person even coming into interview. And we say, here's all of this information about yourself, and you can utilize that. I feel like it's a little bit of a cheat on their side of things, but we thought it might make them more comfortable as well knowing that. But we've been sharing some of this stuff, but I don't know that I know that all those reports that you showed up to this point are actually in the creative report kit.
They're not, like the relationship guide is
Yeah.
not in here. And the coaching guide is not in here.
Okay.
But it's a good place to start. So do you just check
So
these?
yeah, I would do the self-assessments. I would do, if you click on behavioral, person, and then place card, and then I would just do behavioral. I wouldn't even include management style or influence selling, and then I do place card.
Yep,
And then I would just send those three things to
to the
the person
candidate.
we're interviewing. Yeah.
That's awesome. How do you didn't used to do that though, did you?
No, we didn't used to do that. And then it was, I think Mark thought we may have been doing it and then we weren't doing it because I always thought, well, they're cheating if we give it to them, right? We're giving them all the answers of who they are based on those questions. And then it was like, well, let's give it to them. That way they can understand better, like why we're doing it. It's not to say they're not capable of doing a position, but this is really where it aligns for them. And this is what the position's doing. So are you able to make that? We don't give them the job target, but
Right.
we give them that insight.
Oh, that's interesting because I would say 90% do not give this to candidates.
Well, and could that be because you would think it would be cheating? It would be like giving them the answers prior to the interview, kind of ish.
I'm not really sure. Can anybody comment on why you might not send that to candidates?
For us, it's just, I feel like the investment and then going through it during that step. I love that you do that, but I'm just thinking it might be more efficient for us at least to do it once we've brought them on board.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Mhm.
Do the candidates appreciate that, Erin, when you give it?
Yeah, because I think they're like, oh my goodness, this aligns with me so well. And I can't believe you got all this information and it really is me. Or they're like, well, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that, you know? So I think it does create a little bit of communication upon why we're doing it so they understand it because we want them to understand who they are and what those natural abilities are for them.
That's pretty interesting. I
Mhm.
wonder if it helps develop trust from the beginning.
I think so.
I could
Or
see
maybe
that.
people don't like it. They're like, oh, I can't believe you do that, you know, because some people are against it
Yeah,
and they don't want to take that test.
no, but when they get the results, most people are kind of intrigued by it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But my suggestion for the onboarding is just that, a suggestion, but I found that those really help, especially the relationship guide in
Mm-hmm.
communication between the person and the manager. Any other, looks like there's another question in chat. You're on mute.
Yeah, Brittany was sharing
Yeah.
what they're
Oops,
doing.
sorry.
I don't know, Brittany, if you wanted to say any more about that.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know that is something that we're currently doing. In our organization, we are sending out those reports that you mentioned to the new hire on their first day. And then we also send them to their manager, with the exception of that behavioral comparison one. So I'm going to add that to my task list. But then another thing that we do that we have found to be pretty helpful is at the 90-day review, the manager sits down with the new employee and HR, and we go through their 90-day review. And I like to bring up that manager relationship guide again. Even though both parties have already seen it, it's just kind of nice to bring it back up. And now they've had 90 days to work together. And that's usually when I get a lot of those chuckles about the relationship cautions, tips and tricks. So yeah, it's worked well for us so far. People have really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Looks like there's one more.
Yeah, Brandy is saying that they do it for internal candidates, but not consistently for external. But she likes the ideas that are shared here today.
Okay, good. Let me go to kind of the last non-PI tool. And I know Brandon, we worked on this a little bit at Pressure. But it's called an expectation and priorities agreement. So I started using this a long time ago when I was managing people. And then Karen and I, a few months back, put this together for our company, for me and for Karen. So what it looks like is you've got the no more than 3 goals kind of for the company. And this example is just, goal number 1, increase market share for new product line by 10%. And then it goes into what the person can do in relationship to that goal. So this one was bring in at least 10 new customers for the product line by the end of Q4. And the steps to accomplishing that: work with marketing to develop prospects, cross-sell to customers, attend networking events. And then kind of the most important part is putting a measure to that and a due by date. So this has a due by date of Q4, but number of new prospects, number of new customers, number of events. So people know exactly what they need to do and how they're going to be measured. I was just on a coaching call over the past few weeks, and it was a small business, and they were just learning they didn't understand that, why their new hire was just struggling. And I had them put together this expectation and priorities agreement for the new hire. And they sat down and they gave the expectations and the steps and the measures. And the employee said, "Oh, now I understand what I need to do. This is so clear, and it's clear feedback." And they were so motivated to get on top of things, that they kind of turned around their confidence level, their performance level, just because it was clear on what they needed to do. But the goals, just to make sure you look at the left-hand side, need to be the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable by that person. They need to be relevant to the work that person's doing, and they need to be time-bound. I'm going to go to the website. And can you see the Day 91 website on here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the day91consulting.com website. And up here is a for clients section. And I had already logged into it, but the password for the clients section is capital DAY91 consulting. So Day 91 consulting. So if you go in here and you click on the fit gap, which we looked at before, you'll get this report that you can download and fill in. If you go here to the sample expectation agreement, it's going to download a blank one for you so that you can start filling these in. And kind of the nice thing about this too, I have the instructions on the second page of these, is you can use this. If you keep using it, it turns into an annual, biannual, quarterly review. You don't have to do much to summarize to be able to give that final review to somebody. And by the time you get to the final, it should be absolutely no surprise to the person because you've been going through this all along. And I wanted to ask a question. How many of you are using some sort of performance management system? You can raise your hands and is it pretty simple? Aaron will let you.
So we use it through Paylocity.
Okay,
And so we have, there's like journaling that's in there as well. And then, you know, the top 3 things that you're looking to do for the year. And then you can track those as you go quarterly, as you have discussions with your manager. Again, if the manager is having those discussions, if the manager is journaling with their employee, those sort of things.
okay. Anybody else using something they want to talk about?
We use our Bloom Growth, so they do like the one-on-one meetings through that and have different goals and expectations in there. And then for our annual, more formalized reviews, we use Paylocity.
Okay. This is just another kind of quick tool, but I recommend it because it has, I mean, the results and the feedback are almost, it's so short term. And it's such a clarifying tool, no matter what you're doing. If you can use whatever performance management system you're doing, or here's a little tool that you can use that's free to you, to start managing people. I'm tool agnostic, as long as someone's using it. So how we can help, we can help you lead with some management tools. We can help you do some effective communication between some of your employees. We're also here to help you fill out these expectation agreements because it may not be self-explanatory, and we can help you put those together, put down measurements, things like that. So feel free to reach out to me or Karen, and we are happy to help you. Any other questions before we end? All right. Then we are going to end 1 minute early, and I thank everybody for showing up, and I hope you have a good rest of your week and weekend.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Beth.
everyone.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks.
Thank you.